So today we're talking about, if y'all haven't seen, we're talking about, well, the name of this episode is Plus Tax, and we ain't talking about the federal taxes or your sales taxes with business. We're talking about the black tax, the pink tax, and the poor tax that many business or financial institutions put in, in place when dealing out financial support for education, everything actually. Let's just say that. I'm not gonna go down the list. It's too much. So, and we're talking about the intersectionality in between those. Because at first it's Black History Month, so we was like, we're gonna talk about the black tax. But when you really think about it, you can't talk about the black tax without talking about poor tax. You can't talk about poor tax without, or the black tax without talking about the pink tax. Because if you are a Black woman and say disabled, you face different opposition and oppression and difficulty from each one of those categories. Like just being a woman, you have your set of problems there, or your set of difficulties there. Being Black, you have your set of difficulties there, or being disabled or handicapped in some way, you have your own disadvantages there. So we want to discuss all of them and how they affect businesses, how you set up your own business, or just going into work if you do clock in, what you notice there. Like, how does your company, or is your company a part of it? How do they implement certain things, and what do you do to notice it or combat it, or do you just go along with your day, because it is what it is.
Yeah.
So that's what we doing today. So, I mean,
I'm just like gonna be cognizant of the fact that this is a really deep topic, a really deep conversation. So we might split this into an episode 1, episode 2, just depending on how the conversation goes and what all we cover. But I feel like it's a lot to try to tackle in an hour, and we might not hit all the points that we want to. So we might circle back and do like a part 2, but we'll fill it out and we'll see how we feel
I know. It's like when we started this, it was supposed to be a deep thing, but unfortunately, like when you really start talking about business and the inner workings of businesses and practices and systems, it really is deep. It really can't even be that lighthearted. And it's kind of, well, we make it lighthearted because, life, you gotta laugh from crying. But these topics each one have ended up being deeper than we initially started out wanting. Anyway, it's just like, okay, we gotta go down this rabbit hole.
It's crazy though, because until we started like having these conversations, like I think I knew, but I really didn't know the systemic issues that are so deeply rooted in our culture, and not just the systemic issues, but the mentality is socially conditioned within us. If you really think about it, as a people, we're socially conditioned to think a certain way and react to certain behaviors because of what we've been, subjected to on the oppression side, and discrimination. And it is systemic, but part of it is we have a mentality that we need to try and shift as a people, and we haven't gotten there yet. And it's not all our fault. It's because laws, legislation, stuff like that has yet to change. The temperature of the country has yet to change. The way, how we present ourselves in the public eye and how it is received has yet to change. So it's like we're still in this push-pull period of finding our way on being authentically ourselves, and yet still being able to combat these setbacks like black tax, like pink tax, like all of that stuff. Like, how do we really overcome it?
Ain't that been a question for how many years now?
We don't know.
I don't know. Like, that's literally been the question. That's literally been the march. That's literally been the fight. Do you overcome it? How do you overcome it? I mean, right now, like so many people, it's just life. You know what I mean? And you do have jaded and cynical people because it's just life. You've been living like this for so long. It hasn't really changed. When you do make some steps forward, but with your step forward, it's like 18 steps back. So it's kind of hard to kind of keep that push going and not just kind of settle into the rigmarole of the regular everyday life. Like, okay, yeah, it is what it is. It's kind of hard to not make that your sole personality, really. Like, okay, it is what it is, and learning how to move on.
I want to take a minute to just, I did a little bit of digging on this topic, and I know Tequila did too. We like to research things before we come to the table giving opinions and make sure that we are educated in the subject. So I did a little bit of research, and I ran up on this really, really interesting article. It was by Dr. Robert T. Palmer, and he had a quote in his article that said something along the lines, I'm going to paraphrase, I'm not going to say it exactly, but he said something along the lines of the black tax. In this instance, he was talking about the black tax, but I think it's applicable across all of them. But he said, it's not just that it's connected to finances. It's the psychological effect of the weight or the stressor that group of people experience, and how we think white people or those outside of that bubble perceive that class. So it's how they perceive black people, how they perceive poor people. Hey guys, thanks for joining. Appreciate it.
Hey, Mercedes.
Yeah, and I thought that was like super interesting because my wheels started to turn, and I'm like, every time I've ever talked about black tax has never been from the perspective of the financial side. It has always been that mantra that is ingrained in our culture, which is you gotta work twice as hard to get half of what your white counterparts have. You gotta be twice as good to get half of what they get. And so I started to think about that, the psychological things that are out there, and they start, there's a stigma where once something is out there, for instance, black people are dumb, what do we go and do? We overeducate ourselves. We go and get 4 and 5 degrees that we really don't.
Stressor on you. Yeah, you put that, not saying you put that stressor on yourself, but you know that's a thought that's out there, and you be like, I wish I would. Like, I'm not going to show up that way. Like, that's what you expecting out of me. You're not going to get that out of me. And I know I'm like that. Like, one of my biggest fears is showing up as a fool in public. Like, I can't do it.
And I'm glad you said that, because that is the root cause of imposter syndrome. That is why our community deals with imposter syndrome so badly. It's because of how it's thrown out there, that there's stigmas around our culture and our community that I don't think we believe them, but they're repeated so many times, they take a mental toll on us. And we go above and beyond to avoid being labeled as uneducated. You can't speak proper English. You're lazy. You don't want to work hard. You're dirty. You don't look good. Your hair is unkempt. Like, all of those things drive us to do this other stuff where we go out and get over degrees. We overwork in positions and work long hours when our white counterparts don't have to, because we want to prove our worth. Or we go out here and we, adjust the way that we come to the table, how our appearance is, because we don't want to be seen as unkept, unclean, dirty, whatever it is that they have to say about us. And then that causes not only the imposter syndrome, but that causes the code switching.
Yep. See, all this stuff, and I'm like, dang, I was looking at this stuff. I'm like, why is everything so heavy? I just want to be talking about some stuff, but you really can't. If you're reading and you're really studying all these things and these topics, you really can't ignore all this other stuff. You can't ignore the fact that all these things are connected. It's so deeply rooted. And like you said, it's not that you believe these things, because I've never once believed those things about, myself, because I can't speak for everyone, of course. I never once believed those things about myself, but I also put that pressure on myself. Like, not only do I not believe that, I'm going to make sure you don't believe that about me either. And that's just as toxic as actually believe in those things, because you're not actually free to just live your life and show up authentically you, even though now, and as of recent, like as of late, I would say maybe a year or two, I have just totally decided, like, this is who I am. I'm not finna change my voice. I'm not finna change the way I talk. I'm not finna change the way I carry myself. Like, you don't like me, you don't like me. It ain't got nothing to do with me. That's your business, how you feel. I do not care. Like, whatever. This is me. So,
Right.
but it takes a long, long time to actually even get to that point, because you still, because it's so ingrained in you, like, what is, what is the perception? Like, what do you feel about me? And you really do have to be at a point of self-love that you're like, whatever, like, I'm good. I know I'm good. I know my value. I know what I'm worth. I know what I bring to the table. And that is what it is. Whether that person wants it or not ain't got nothing to do with me.
Right.
So,
Yep.
but
So,
anyway.
a question for you: the Black tax and entrepreneurship. What has been kind of your perspective, and what are kind of the impacts of being a business owner? It's a little different on the corporate side, and I know kind of how that feels, but as a business owner, it's got to be a little different experience. What do you normally kind of see or
As a
experience?
business owner who is Black themselves, I don't necessarily think I'm applying a Black tax or anything like that, because you used to dealing with that community. You used to
Mm-hmm.
dealing with those people. You used to the things that come along with Black Blackness. And so I'm not sure if, well, on my end, I'm not I don't, but I have seen, because I'm in the beauty industry. If anybody on here who don't know, I'm in the beauty industry, but I have seen that salons do charge extra. You know what I'm saying? Like, they might not word it correct, and they don't word it correctly. It's not, they might not, they don't, but they would charge extra if you have coily hair or thick hair, or what they deem Black, too Black of hair that they can't deal with. Which we kind of do that, but it's not in a way of, it's more like a time thing. I'm not penalizing you just because your hair is coily, or you're Black, or you know what I'm saying, or I'm not comfortable with doing your hair. It's more like, if you use more product, then yes, I would tack on the price for the more product. If
Yeah.
we're going over our session or our allotted time, yes, I will tack on a little bit more to, you know, block you off for the right amount of time on the schedule. But I have heard that people just tack on more just in general, because they might not know what they're doing, or they might not be comfortable with it, and that's where the problem comes in, because now your reasoning of adding money on isn't from anything sound. It's just how you feel at this point, like, you're uncomfortable, you're not used to doing it, you find it more difficult, you know what I mean? Like, those are very personal reasons. If you had another person come in, they could probably still get their hair done in a hour and a half or whatever, and blase blase. So technically, it's just your lack of skill set that you're taking on these prices for, and that's where the problem comes in. I feel like that's where it will be a big deal, and that's why people make a big, this big scene about it, because it's like, okay, you're charging me for your lack of skill set. That has never been okay, you know.
Right.
But charging me because I took more time and I'm running into somebody else's appointment, or charging me because I use more product, or charging me because the hair is past a certain, length or whatever. So all that is time and product based. So you have the right to kind of, like, okay, I need to add a little bit more on there to cover the overhead of it. But
Yeah.
we do know people do charge for the lack of skill set, or the lack of confidence, or the lack of whatever.
Right. And I
Yeah.
think another point to that is, so I kind of wanted to highlight this point. I'm glad you kind of circled us around this area. Everything is not, as a consumer, and you're doing business with a Black business, everything is not a Black tax.
Mm-hmm.
Black businesses do not get the same level of equity that white-owned businesses do. They do not get the same interest rates. They do not get the same accessibility to resources and
Products.
products. So when you go into a space with a Black business and you are upset about the price, I really want to implore you to take a step back and think about what it takes for them to go to market.
Yeah.
It is not the same. They do not have the economies of scale as a larger corporation, so they don't have the ability to buy thousands and thousands of stuff at a bulk price at the really, really cheap level. That's not where they are. If you want to help a Black-owned business lower their price, buy from them. Buy from them because they need the volume. They need the volume in order to justify their sales. Because when you go to borrow money, the first thing a bank is going to ask you is, what is your revenue? What's your revenue? And what's your profit margin? If you really want to help a Black-owned business lower their prices, then go buy from them consistently and add to their volume so that they can get at a level where they can get the lower rates for their money that's coming in. And on the flip side of that, y'all got to stop with this reverse Black tax. Y'all got to stop penalizing Black businesses saying, y'all don't have good customer service, your quality ain't this, I don't want to shop with you because you don't have this, that, and the other. Y'all got to stop that. Like, it's killing our wealth building and our wealth generation efforts every time you decide to take your money in your pocket and spend it with a larger corporation instead of going Black-owned. Like
it's like what we talked about last week with the last podcast. The price is the price. We don't know people's business models. Exactly. You know what I mean? So like you were saying, especially if you're a small Black-owned business, like it's usually just you and one other person, or maybe 3 to 6 at the most.
Yep.
And it's only so much of your revenue that you can put into something, or your own resources. And we also have to keep in mind that a lot of entrepreneurs from the Black community, as of now, they're the first generation or second. Like we really, really are in our infancy when it comes to business ownership, and like all that, all the oppression and the redlining and the segregation and the keeping you away from money and loans, that's not far removed. It's really up the street from where we live. It's not that far. So a lot of us just don't know. Like a lot of us are going through a trial and error because we are in our infancy. This is kind of like the first or second, I won't even say third generation, really, maybe like the second, third at the most, that has the rights to actually go out and form a business, build a business, put stuff in. And we only can pull so much from our history because we don't have a lot of that history of ownership that we personally know about over here in America. And if you were from one of those families that always been entrepreneurs ever since you can, amazing. Yep. But most of us are not from those families. A lot of us are first or second generation business owners or entrepreneurs. Like, we're just getting our feet wet. So a lot of this is trial and error. A lot of people don't know. And then we are in a time, and I do hate this, that we're in a time where I know a lot of people kind of want to go big overnight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
the overnight blow up.
Yeah, you want to set your schedule how you want to set your schedule when you first start, and you want to do all the things that people who've been entrepreneurs or been working for themselves for years been doing now. But it takes a minute. It does. It does take a minute for you to get in your head. Some people to get in their head like, oh, okay, well, wait, I'm gonna probably have to work or keep whatever open for 7 days a week. I'm probably gonna have to invest X amount of time. That it does take a minute, and you are dealing with people in their infancy as far as entrepreneurial and ownership rights and all those type of things. So,
and those new
have got to deal with
entrepreneurs
it.
are tasked with carrying that we still carrying our previous generations with us. We still trying to provide for them and make a way for not only the folks behind us, but the folks ahead of us. You got to remember, a lot of entrepreneurs, they're setting up businesses, but a lot of them don't pay themselves. A lot of them are operating at a loss sometimes. And even with the third and fourth generation, you know, Black-owned businesses, there's still the century-long wealth gap that you have to fight. And for everybody listening, and everybody's gonna watch this, I saw this on, I believe, either Forbes or Bloomberg. You can go and Google it. For every dollar a black family has, a white family has 10.
Yeah, I thought it was 7, so it went up to 10.
Oh, wow. 10 now. They have 10 times the wealth that we do. So you're talking about a lineage of our white counterparts having a lineage of wealth over hundreds of years, and we're just now getting to the point where we almost at the rate of getting fair pay, and we still fighting that.
That's still a struggle. Like that's still a fight to get fair pay.
Fair pay, fair interest rates, get out of predatory lending areas. We're not there yet.
I think I just got a letter not too long ago about interest rate from one of our lenders that we went that, you know, our interest rate was higher than, well, I don't know if it was ours, but just Black, brown, Latino people's interest rate was way higher than the white counterparts. So, I mean, literally just got that maybe last year.
Yeah.
So it still very much so happens. We see it all the time, even though we kind of, you know, probably, you know, dust it underneath the rug, but still happens. Still very much so happens.
Yep. On average, we pay roughly 9% interest.
That's ridiculous.
On any type of lending that we do. And on average, our white counterparts are probably somewhere between 3 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
And that's based on a lot of different factors. One is income and the poverty level. But poverty impacts people of color more than it does white people. So that's part one. Part two is the predatory lending part. They looking at whether or not you're Black, and they automatically assume if you're Black, you're a risk. So that plays into it. And then, like, what you do for a living. Do you have steady income? You know,
and you know what, that bothers me so bad, since we are talking about, you know, this is a business podcast or a talk, and entrepreneurship, that's looked at as a risk still. Like, it's so crazy that part of the American dream is, you know, being able to own and run a business. And when you do, you're looked at like you are higher risk than someone who goes and clocks in, who probably makes less than you. But it's the fact that they have that guaranteed pay. Like, they're going to get paid that amount of money all the time. They got that guaranteed salary. Versus you, well, yeah, you got paid well this month, this month, this month, but who knows if you'll get paid that well the next month. It's like history. Like, here's the proof of my average. But yeah, you're looked at like there'll be more risk. And I think as of maybe now or last year, they started doing more things to incorporate entrepreneurship as far as giving them lending and looking at how the revenue is viewed and how they give you money. They just started doing that. Like, they really just started doing that. That's something very new. And it's crazy because entrepreneurship has been around since America, right? Yeah. For a while now. Like, but it's still viewed as a risk.
Yeah, I'll tell y'all another secret too, why a lot of smaller businesses don't get the funding that they need. It's because of the definition of a small business. So small business is not necessarily dictated by the revenue of the company. It's by the number of employees. So if you have less than X number of employees, you can be categorized as a small business. However, your small business is making $400 million a year. Technically, are you really a small business if you're making $500 million a year? Like, what funding do you really need as a small business if you're making $500 million a year? But I can tell you some small companies who fell within the parameters of employee size who not only got the PPP loan, but they also got it forgiven. They
Absolutely.
have to pay it back.
Absolutely.
$500 million worth of revenue.
Absolutely.
And they have to pay it back. But a small
meanwhile, we're the people with the least amount of employees, and they're making, they're still making good money, but it's definitely not $500 million.
Yeah.
You literally get change. Like, you get some change. Like, here you go. I hope this helps. It kind of don't though.
Right.
It kind of don't though. But I'm going to.
And your company that might have made $50,000 a year, which was a great year for you with 5 employees, they knocking on your door, hounding you for that PPP. They want you to pay it back. Yeah. But they're not going after these other businesses that got it. The system is rigged. The system is rigged. I don't know what we talking about. I'm lost now. I'm off because I'm thinking about it and it's making me mad. Oh, I just got a delivery. It's gonna have to wait. Where we at? But yeah, so, and then the pink tax and the poor tax is pretty much the same way. Pink tax, you get most of the items that's marketed towards women are priced at a higher cost, just because it doesn't take more to make those items. They usually come from the same factory. It doesn't take more to stock those things. It's just the fact that we'll pay for it. Women will pay for it because the way the society has been set up and what it's been teaching you is you have to have these things as a woman. Like, you have to have these razors. Like, you can't be hairy. You have to have shampoo, conditioner, all these things that are geared towards our looks, and women aren't given that particular type of forgiveness in society as far as our image is concerned. Yep. So they're going to charge you more versus a guy. And me and James, which is my husband, we were talking about this the other day, because who was that? Jalen Rose, who was like, if you're not paying your barber at least $100, you're not getting a quality cut or whatever. And people was getting mad. But I said the problem really is that men are just now starting to really groom themselves again. It used to be a thing way back when, even in ancient Egypt, but then it fell off somewhere up in this middle part, and now it's getting back going, where men are expected to take care of themselves, skin, exfoliation, hair, all those things. I can't breathe. I'm stuffed up today. But I said the problem is y'all weren't used to paying for it. I'm like, so now that the system, now that the economy is, everything is so high, we got these inflations and whatever. I said your barber should have been went up on his prices a long time ago. Most barbershops should have been going up, but they did it. They haven't. They were always kind of community focused. But with that, the price stays low, but they don't do any renovations. You know what I mean? They don't do any renovation. They don't go to extra classes outside of what you already did. They don't get the new techniques. They don't get the new stuff. So yes, that comes at a cost, because I can keep charging you what we used to charge in a 99 and a 2000, but I can't afford anything else. Like, you can only get those bare minimum things, and you can only spend 15 minutes in my chair, and you gotta go. Because like we was talking last week, it's a volume driven, in that point, it's a volume driven model. We're not worried about premium product or premium experience or service. Now I'm just trying to get you in and out. And we've been built on that community factor. Like, you go there, have your conversation, it's a good time, this and that, but it doesn't change either.
The environment around you stays the same because there isn't enough resource there for me to live and reinvest.
Yep. I think something else about the pink tax, and I have not researched this theory, so this is just me putting dots together. But what I think is the pink tax came along around, I want to say 50s, 60s time frame.
I think it was 50. I think it was 50.
When marketing firms, the old school marketing firms, like if you watch the show Mad Men, you ever seen that show before? Mm-hmm. That type of marketing firm, they started to figure out that even though the men made the money in the household, the women were the shoppers. Mm-hmm. The women were the decision makers in how much money was going to be spent on a particular good. And that's because they were going to be the person using it. They were going to be the one at home doing the cleaning, the cooking. They were the ones expected to have a certain look, wear certain outfits, wear their hair a certain way.
And they're going to be the ones shopping.
They're the ones that's shopping. Mm-hmm. So why market to a man who doesn't care? Yeah. Or is going to use any of these products? Instead, they started to switch their focus and say, we need to market to women. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where the pink tax came into play, because after they figured out that the women were going to be the ones shopping, well, the man at that point is just the wallet. The woman's going to go and pay, and she's going to pay whatever she wants to pay because she's the one that's actually doing the physical shopping. And mm-hmm. he gives her the money in this scenario, in this time, but she's the one actually making the decision. Now we're starting to see this a little bit of shift, like Keith said, about men spending more on their grooming, and that's because the dynamics have changed. Back then, there were very rarely any two-income households. Mm-hmm. Now you have two-income households, and in certain households, you have more where the women make more money. Mm-hmm. But both people have financial decision-making power, and so now there's a shift to say, okay, what are you going to buy as a woman? What are you going to buy as a man? I started noticing the marketing stuff with the beard care lines. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, you started seeing a whole bunch of beard care lines just pop up out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, men been having beards forever.
Y'all been put soap in their beard, like just hand soap in their beard for all your life. And now all of a sudden you need balls, creams. Yeah.
You've been putting lotion in your beard. You've been washing it with like regular Dove soap or Ivory soap or something. Now all of a sudden you want special shampoo for your beard. Mm-hmm. It's a marketing trick.
Mm-hmm. It is, but I know he got a lot of flack for that. But I was telling him, I was like, I don't know about 100. I said, but he's not too far off with the price, because if you think about it, if you go, I'm not even sure if men go every week still. I know he doesn't go every week. He probably goes maybe every 2 to 3 weeks to get the beard, shaped up or whatever. But I'm like, if you go every 2 weeks, I would say $50 for a haircut and then $25 for your beard and everything else. I said, but with that, I know I wouldn't spend 15 minutes on your hair. I know it would be a lot longer I would spend on your hair, because one, I have the resource now that I can spend more time and really give you detailed work. And then your environment is going to be totally different. I know as of now, if I am making, $50 to $75, where you go to actually get your hair cut, the location is going to look totally different now. You're going to have different premiums in there. Like you're going to get offered the hot towel. You're going to get offered the something to drink. You're going to get offered, there's things that come with that. Yeah. That you might not be able to get with your traditional $25, $15 haircut. Mm-hmm. Like you just come in and sit down, have some conversation, and you can sit in the waiting room, because they're going to be overbooked, because they have to be overbooked, because it's about a volume model at this time. I got to get as many people in because I have to make a living as well. I can't do this and not do it, and I can't do that for $15. And you can only expect it to be you. Like, that's crazy. I can't afford to do that.
It ain't super
it's not quite off. I was like, he's not that off with the price. And I was like, but you know, it doesn't come from a celebrity well. Nobody's going to take that that type of information well, coming from a celebrity, coming from people with money, coming
Right.
from if you're deemed as someone who hadn't have to financially struggle or get it out the mud or whatever, like, it's not going to come well from that. It's not going to be received well. It's also not going to be received well from the people in the industry, because we're going to automatically believe, like, oh, you just want more money. It's like, of course I do, but if I want more money because there's other external reasons and things that I need, you know, to be able to continue to do this and pay my bills and pay for overhead. Like, it comes with the price of doing business. The price has gone up with doing business.
Right. So we covered like kind of the shared services, but what about those products that are specifically for women and their price points? Like, there's guys ain't buying tampons, right? They're not.
No. Well, yeah, you know, and that's been a push too forever, to try to get that as like a universal healthcare kind of thing. Like, you shouldn't be paying for sanitary products, basic sanitary products.
Why can't we use our HSA on that?
America? I don't know. I don't know about that, America. Capitalism? I don't know. I would think it's the same, but money. That's why
I need that every month. Like, that's
you
a
need
medical
it.
expense.
It ain't your fault you need it, right? But that's been a push too. And yes, those things are very expensive. I can see, in which I can kind of see the basic things being free. You know, like your pads, your tampons. Maybe the extra things like the underwear, the cups, this. Maybe those things should be premiums that you pay for. Maybe, I don't know, but you know what? I don't know. I think it'd be a wonderful idea, but I'm also a woman who goes through it. Like, let's do have these things for free, because I mean, why not? But they are high, and there are studies that's shown that some people don't have access to those things. And I know there's people out there like, oh, they're only, you know, $10, 18, however much, or you can just get a little pack. Well, yeah, but there literally are people who just don't have it. They truly don't have that extra $10, $12, $20 to go towards that.
Yeah.
It's a thing. I know you probably can't wrap your head around that, and that's a blessing. It's really good if you can't wrap your head around that. But there are people out there who truly do need the assistance to be able to buy those things.
So I think that's a good segue into the poor tax. So let's tackle that. I think the poor tax is probably the one that is the worst. And the sad part is, if you're black and you're poor, you getting double taxed, okay?
That's the intersectionality with it. That's the intersectionality, because when I was looking up, when we decided to do the black tax, and I was looking it up and doing some research on it, I was like, well, the black tax, when I was reading it, I was like, well, it's really linked to the poor tax, actually, because a lot of funding comes from the local property tax.
Yep.
And if you're in a lower income neighborhood and you're gonna get less access to bonds or whatever, and then you're gonna get this higher interest.
Yep.
Like, you're still gonna you're not receiving the help that you actually need.
Yep.
To, even if you get that loan, if that loan comes with a 29% interest, that's not help. I hate to tell you, it's not help. It's a bigger hole than what you came out of. Like, it's like you said, it's so rigged, and it's a cycle effect. That it really pushes you on this wheel. Like, oh my God, I need it right now, but if I take it, it puts me in such a further disadvantage. Yep. And now I'm gonna have to work so much harder. And I don't know if y'all know, it's only so much you can physically do. It's only so so hard you can physically work without killing over or putting yourself in a state of exhaustion. So you really are putting yourself on this wheel. So if you're in this, yeah, I was doing that. And I'm like, I know we quoted it and we termed the term as black tax, but I was like, it's really, you're taxing poor people. And like you're saying, financial importance affects black and brown people more often than not white people. And we're not, of course, we're not taking anybody's, struggle away. Like, of course, you don't have to be black to be poor, and you don't have to be white to be wealthy. Like, of course, those things. We're just talking numbers and actual facts that you can get on your own, and it's been shown more often than not that lower income neighborhoods are usually populated by black and brown people.
Right.
And affluent neighborhoods are usually populated more by white people. And like you were saying earlier, it's a psychological thing as well, because when we say, I'm going to move to a good neighborhood, we're not thinking black in your head. You said all day, you like, oh yeah, I wasn't thinking about, yes, you were. Because a lot of times people affiliate good or good neighborhood or prosperous neighborhood with not white neighborhood or non-melanated or non-urban neighborhood or non-melanated, non-urban school. When we talk about a good school district, what are you talking about? What qualifies them as being a good school district?
Right. And that's because of the redlining. Like it's so perfectly planned that, like, if you really need to take a for real step back and look at the big picture. So the whole poor tax is dependent on where you live and how much money you make. When they start redlining your neighborhood, there is some kind of mechanism in place to automatically devalue your property and all the properties around you. What ends up happening is when your property value goes down, the amount of tax assistance or federal assistance that neighborhood gets also goes down. That impacts what type of businesses stand up in your neighborhood. So you're not going to get a Publix or a good grocery store. You're not going to get a good pharmacy. You're not going to get all of these things. That's why you see a Family Dollar in the impoverished neighborhoods or a Dollar General. And when you have things like that in place, you can't get access to the stuff that you really need. And then if you are getting access to it, the prices are different than what they would be in a flourishing neighborhood. So you're not getting access to fresh fruits, fresh food. You're not getting access to all. You're getting junk. You're getting liquor. You're getting all of this other stuff poured into your neighborhood based on the value. And then what ends up happening is, next thing you know, you start seeing check cashing places pop up in the neighborhood. That's predatory lending. You see what is it? Title loan places. You see a lot of those. That's predatory lending, where you have 50 to 60% interest rates on a small loan of like $200-300. That's predatory lending, but it's on purpose because it's in the poor neighborhood, and you can't go to the bank and get a regular bank loan because they're going to pull your address and see where you live and notice that you're in this red line area, and they're going to disqualify you for that funding. So the pawn shops, the payday loans, the check cash, and all of that stuff, rent to own places, all of that stuff pops up in the impoverished neighborhoods. So now you working overtime trying to pay these stuff. Now you physically start to get ill. And I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but access to hospitals, minute clinics, all of that stuff starts to go down. And and one thing I started noticing in Black neighborhoods specifically was the number of dialysis centers that started popping up.
Skyrocketed up.
And guess what else is in the Black neighborhood? Liquor stores. Liquor stores are in the Black neighborhoods because we are self-medicating from depression and being poor, and we drink ourselves into a stupor. We do damage to our bodies. Our livers don't function the way they are, and instead of giving us the healthcare resources that we need, they stick a dialysis center in the middle of our neighborhood.
Yeah,
because they don't want us to come out.
Yeah, it's not a cure for the problem. You always get the patch for it or whatever. You don't really, you want to get the Band-Aid every time. And also, like we're saying, if you are in these situations, and I know a lot of times these places push this narrative that they're helping, that, oh, I'm here to help the neighborhood because this, that, and the other. But if you are in impoverished situation, you're least likely to decline whatever help or resource that you can get. So it's like, again, a catch-22. If I don't take it, I'm forever stuck here anyway. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be stuck here. This, that, and the other, unless something else amazing happens, or if I play my cards just right, then I could possibly get out through, education or athletics or what have you. That's another route. And then it's like, if I do take this predatory lending, because it is predatory, because 200-300% interest on $300, $600, $1,000. Like, if I didn't have the original 1,000, I definitely ain't finna have the 7,000 that you're asking me for. Like, I ain't gonna have it. Don't come to me. I ain't got it. I'm fresh out of bills. Okay.
And I gotta pay you every 2 weeks.
Sir, ma'am, sirs, I don't have it. I ain't got it. But you're gonna probably take it because, again, we had this mindset, and bless us for it. We so hopeful as a people. Like, if I get this, I can flip this, I can do this. And you possibly could. But a lot of times, if you're so impoverished, the things that you have to pay are so behind and so built up on you, and the hole you have to climb out, you probably won't have enough left to really do flipping and whatnot. And if you take that money and do something with it and it doesn't pan out, now not only are you in the hole with this new predatory lending place, but you're still in the hole for the original problem.
Yep.
So it's like, how do we get out of this?
Right. And to that point, like, another trap, I'm gonna say it, people probably gonna disagree or whatever, but I'm living it. Yes, we can get educated to get out of the first hole, but y'all, student loans is the second hole.
Yeah.
So
it's true.
Jump out of one hole to get into the next hole, and what you end up facing is more of a long-term hole to dig out of. Because on average, it takes people 20 years to pay off their student loans, depending on how much you take and what did you actually go to school for. It's people out there with $200,000, $300,000 worth of student loans. You're gonna pay that forever, and then it goes back to, well, what if I want to go and get a loan or do something else? You know what they're gonna say? Your debt to income ratio is a little high there. You have too many student loans. I don't think that a house is going to be in your best interest right now, because we don't think that you can afford it. And you absolutely can afford that house, but
because you're paying $1,600 in rent
in educating yourself, they don't want to give it to you. So you just left one hole to be put in another.
Yeah, after frying pan into the fire.
Exactly.
As they would say. But and then like you said, like, yeah, I absolutely can afford a house, like, because rent is so high now. Like, a mortgage ain't finna be this high. Like, make it make sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm paying $2,000 in the rent, okay, and the mortgage probably gonna be 12, 13. That's $700 of extra dollars that could be put towards something else.
And here's the kicker: even if I'm paying $2,000 in the mortgage, I'm paying myself equity.
Equity.
I'm not paying somebody else's equity. I'm not paying rent so if somebody else can pocket my money, I'm actually building wealth by making that $2,000 payment on my own property.
Right.
You just don't want me to have it. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I look. Maybe I'm not well versed enough on mortgage loan lending or whatever. So but I feel the same way you feel. I'm like, there's just no way that to me, just with the layman's terms of how it's explained, I feel like I'm a smart person. Okay, I think I'm a pretty smart cookie, and I'm like, it still just doesn't make the good sense that you think it does. It just doesn't, not to me.
Right.
Now maybe somebody else can come along and really break down the gist of it, but like I said, because I don't know, but I'm thinking if somebody has been paying, $2,000 in rent every month for the last 7 years or however, I feel as though they can handle it. I'm just saying, I do feel as though they can handle it. And then you say, like, I know they give well, we don't want you to be house poor. Oh, well, me neither. Me neither.
Right, who wants to be house poor?
Yeah, I mean, me neither. So let's not, how about you just don't approve me for the house that's going to make me house poor? Like, give me the loan for something smaller where I can have, a starting point. Maybe it's a beginner home.
Yep.
I mean, like, just don't approve me for the $300,000 house. How about approve me for the 140?
Child, we know what happened. What was that? How many years ago was that when the real estate market blew up because of the variable interest rates?
Yeah.
That was deemed predatory lending.
Yeah.
What was that?
Was it?
About 5-6 years ago.
I'm going all the way back to 08 then.
Was it that far back? I'm trying to remember.
I don't know. Look, we done been through so much.
When everybody was getting a house. Everybody was getting a house. They were getting like a new house built. Yes. I think you're right. I think it was like 08. And then all these builders were out here giving all these loans, and they were signing these variable interest.
I feel like it was 08.
And they had lowest rates ever on their home loans. And then as soon as that stuff hit, that interest rate shot up to like 7, 8, 9%. And they're
Yeah, because I think I remember, if it wasn't 08, it might have been a little bit after that. Like, it might have been a trickle effect of 08 or whatever. But I do remember starting to hear more about ballooning mortgage rates, ballooning interest rates, and making sure it's fixed. Like, that's when I really started to hear more, because before that I'm in high school. I was a kid. I don't know nothing about this adulting world and finances and what's that. Anyway, but I really do remember, because I do remember being in college or right out of college or something like that. And I'm like, that's when I started hearing more about, like, making sure you get a fixed interest and making sure it's under, I think they were saying don't go over 3% or 4% or something like that. Something else I heard, like, oh yeah, because it was ballooning, and I'm like, what does any of this mean? I don't know what y'all talking to me about. Like, what are you saying? I'm a kid, like I was 20, 21. Like, what are you saying to me? So yes, I do believe it was that far back.
It was so unfortunate though, because so many Black and brown people ended up going into foreclosure. That was the outcome of that method of signing on people to buy a house. Yeah, we could do all of this stuff initially, but and it's sad because part of it was, a part of it was predatory, of course. The other part of it was, God damn it, people, did you read the agreement?
No.
No. Did you look at what the hell was on the paper?
No. You know how many pages that is? No. I did a skim through. That's what I did. It looked good. I want it. That's what I'm saying. When you know your market.
Yep.
And one thing predatory lending do, and they know their market. When you want something, they know you're such in a position that it's too too good for you not to say yes. Like, you're willing to put that at risk. You're willing to put that on the line because you like, again, I love my people. We get so hopeful sometimes. We're more hopeful than realistic at times. The writing can be on the wall in blood, and we'll still be like, like
but I'm afraid on it.
I'm afraid on it. Like, we'll still be like, nah.
I'm gonna pray on it.
I'm like, what? And I'm like, did you hear him? Did you see? Hey, Cherish. I'm like, did y'all see? Did you see the message? I mean, it can be there, and we'll still be like, I got this. I got me, myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we
God gonna make a way.
It's clearly our toxic trait. Like, we think we just got it. I don't know. It's crazy. I love us for it, but I mean, we done got in a lot of trouble thinking we won't be the ones to get got. Like, I got that problem too. I will wing some in a minute. In a heartbeat. I will wing it. I would be like, I got this, and get beat up by life in the process. So we have a problem, and we got to do better. We got to read that fine print, but it be so many pages though. So I understand. But predatory lending people, they know their market, and when you know your market, you can offer people the world's worst deal. Yeah. But since you know their market, you know them, you know the situation that they're in, you know their story, you know they're going to sign the paper. And unfortunately, we are in a capitalistic society where you are to blame. They're not going to blame the company if you took the bad deal.
Yep.
I mean, we're just getting to a point where now I think they're starting to make some strides to make sure people aren't, like locking down on predatory loan situations and stuff like that. I don't think we go as hard as we need to go, but it's because it still happens. And the first thing people are going to do when you're taken advantage of, they're going to ask you, did you not read it? Did you not know? Did you not? And unfortunately, even if we do know, because they knew who you were and what situation you were in, they knew you were going to say yes anyway.
Yeah. And it's crazy that I don't want to say it's crazy that it's still happening, but it really is crazy that it's still happening. I mean, I want to say not too long ago, a few months ago, I saw an article come out. Either Wells Fargo or Bank of America got their hands slapped again for rejecting mortgage applications of Black applicants.
Yeah, it was Wells Fargo, and it was last year.
I knew it was one of them, but both of them trash banks. But
yeah,
but I was shocked, but I wasn't shocked. Because, at first you're like, really? And then it kind of clicks in your mind. You're like, yeah, okay.
Shocked but not surprised.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was reading the article and I was like, so you just want control. You don't want to make money because these applicants were good applicants for homes. And you would have still made your money.
Mm-hmm.
But it ain't about the money for them. It is about controlling what it is that we have access to.
Yeah.
That's what it all comes down to.
But honestly, the bank gonna always make their money though. Like even if, say, I get a loan and I can't afford the home anymore or whatever, and it forecloses, the bank gets the house back and they reset. Like you're gonna get your money regardless. Like to me, again, I don't understand. Hey Frank, I don't understand mortgage lending and all that good stuff. I'm not gonna act like I do. But certain things, I'm looking between the lines here. I'm like, but you're not losing. You still don't lose. Whether or not I go house broke or whatever, get kicked out, I get foreclosed or whatever. Do you not still make that money? And am I not still on the hook for the money that was loaned to me in the first place?
Girl, I ain't gonna pretend like I know nothing about mortgages.
Yeah, me. I don't know. I'm just like, am I still not on the hook?
They will put it back on. If the bank wants to keep it, the bank has the option to put it back up for sale. They can sell it at whatever the valuation is done at the time. And they potentially could lose because at the time of appraisal, the property could have gone down in value.
Yeah.
Versus at the time of when they sold it. And it's interesting that we're talking about this topic because just think about last year when there was this so-called housing shortage crisis, which was jacking prices up of the houses. I feel sorry for, I don't want to say I feel sorry for people who bought a house in this time, but I sort of kind of do because I'm sorry, I would never pay $35,000 to $50,000 more than what my house was appraised for. Just
because you can't get that back. You can't get that back. You're losing off. You're losing back. You're losing off.
You're not going to realize equity in your home for a very long time because when that next appraisal comes around, you will already be in the red. I would have never have. It was a seller's market, and whoever sold their house had a come up. They came up like nothing else. They came up big.
But to me, I feel like you only came up if you had somewhere else to go. If you didn't have anywhere else to go, I mean, was it really a come up? Like, if you didn't have anywhere else to go, was it really a come up or? Because now you put that money in rent, or you got to go get a whole nother place. Like, I don't know. I don't think I would have bought at the time. Because again, I just was like, I wouldn't have no 30, 40, 50 extra thousand.
Right.
It's the extra thousand that got me. Like, oh no. We going above how much is actually worth. That much.
Yep.
Automatic turnout. I ain't got it. I ain't got it for you. So
we tried to buy last year, and Joe was like, that's my husband, by the way. Joe was like, hell no. And we were just it was so stressful trying to buy a house last year. Houses were on the market 72 hours or less.
Yeah, I saw that. It was crazy.
If that showing like day one, you would miss out. There was literally price wars going back and forth between people trying to buy the house, which was making the price go up because someone coming in 10,000 over asking, okay, let me beat you, I'm gonna go 15. Okay, let me beat you, I'm gonna go 20, and it just kept going and going and going and going and going. And then when they did find like a suitable pool of offers that they wanted to like consider, the power of the sale is definitely with the seller. So we got to a point where we were like one of the last, I think two or three offers that they were considering. These folks wanted us to write them a letter telling them why we deserve to buy their house.
Not deserve.
Bitch, I'm buying a house from you. Why
not deserve.
You?
Not deserve. Like deserve. Can we not deserve?
Tell you why I deserve to buy your house that you don't want anymore. It's a financial exchange. I'm offering you money for a home. Why I gotta convince you?
Now I gotta give you a whole thesis paper that I'm worth this home, but I'm giving you money. I'm giving you money. Why do you deserve to get my money? Like, anyways,
that's like
that would have been a no for me because I'm like, I'm not doing homework now. Like now I gotta do homework. I'm not.
Exactly. And that's what Joe was like. I ain't gonna write this letter. And I was like, well, I'll write the letter because it's gotta get done. But in hindsight, I'm like, why the fuck did I write that damn letter?
Right? Why did I write that letter? I wouldn't have wrote that letter. I'm trying to tell you right now because it was the deserve for me. The deserve threw me all the way out. Like, why I deserve a home? Because I'm alive. And I need somewhere to live. What are you talking about? I got money. Like, it was the deserve for me. I would have been like, oh, well, this ain't my house. I don't even want to give you money now. I don't want to give you anything.
You know what's crazy? That's common practice. If
Girl,
a seller can't decide between offers, they ask for a letter just trying to get to know you. But really, it's not trying to get to know you. It's trying to understand who you are.
and do I want you in my neighborhood?
They want to be able to say, oh, did I sell my house to a black family or a white family?
Or good people, good people or bad
good
people,
bad people. You know,
a family or not. I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe I'd never get one then because it's the deserve part for me. That would have threw me completely off my rocket. I mean, at this point, your house can burn up. I do not care. I don't want it. But if that's common practice, again, I haven't been in the market. Like we would step into a market like 2 days and be like, oh no, I don't want this. Like it was just too much at the time. So maybe, hopefully, whenever it is our time to get out there, it would be more calmed down, and hopefully we don't have to write a thesis paper because I've been graduated school and I don't know how to do that no more. So I don't know how to put that together no more. But we did good. It's 2:09. I don't know how well we stayed on track today. Hopefully it was beneficial. Black tax, pink tax, poor tax.
So y'all hit us up in the comments and let us know whether or not we hit the points well or if we missed them.
I'm sure we did. We talked about what we did. We talked about the black tax, pink tax, poor tax, the intersectionality in between each one, the effects on business and our personal lives. Well, I'm gonna check it as a good. I'm put it in the win column from me. So we'll be back next week. Will we? I don't know.
I think you
will we?
Out of town next week, right?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay, we'll be back next week.
I don't think so. Let me make sure. No, I don't think so. Well, we'll see. We'll be back next week.
We'll be back next week.
And we'll just put what we're putting, what we're talking about then out. So in a couple of days or whatever, because it takes us a minute to really figure out what we want to do. Well, it really don't, but we have to go back and have a conversation. But thank y'all for joining us.
Well, appreciate it. Hope this was helpful, informative, everything else. I hope y'all caught the vibes. If y'all got questions or comments, drop them below. We'll be watching for feedback. And hit us up if there's a certain topic that you want us to cover. Shoot us a message, shoot us a DM. We might post it in our stories asking for some other topics that we can cover. And that's that. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.